Hello and welcome back to the Games Kingdom. My name's Carl King and today we're going to be taking a quick look through the Alien RPG core rulebook from Free League Publishing. Recently picked this up as a Black Friday deal where they were doing 50% off all of their sort of role-playing books and a lot of the associated sort of expansions and starter sets and things. So as I say, managed to pick this up for just over £20 and a little bit of shipping. Normal cost is about just over 40 English pounds, but as I say, this was in a Black Friday deal, so it was too good to pass up really. So we start off and we've got obviously a map of the Middle Heavens solar system in which this sort of world is set. So just a brief sort of little sort of introduction there into sort of some of the worlds that you could set your games in, or the universe that you could be travelling through. And obviously you get into the sort of credits, and then you've got a very comprehensive index for this 400-page rulebook. And you get straight into basically what the story is, so it gives you a brief background about how the Alien universe sort of came about and what it entails. So, and then you've got a section obviously on frontier life and what you can expect within the universe of Alien. So you've got then obviously the facts and sort of some, again, more of the sort of introduction, if you like, into what the game and the worlds are about. You've got a timeline, and then you get straight into things like your careers that you can choose, because you can pick different obviously career paths. You can be a colonial marine, there's a new book for that coming out I think early in 2021. You can be a colonist, you can be a space trucker, so obviously similar to the crew of the Nostromo in the first Alien film with Ripley and Dallas and all of the sort of people that were sort of associated with that particular film. You can be a company rep and you can be a company agent. Like in Aliens, Burke was a company rep stroke agent who obviously had a hidden agenda in getting one of the aliens back to Earth through sort of getting one of the either the Marines or Ripley or anybody else really sort of impregnated with an alien inside them to sort of bring them back to Earth in hypersleep. You can play different game modes. You can play cinematic or campaign. Cinematic is basically a one-shot game, so you're playing a particular scenario, you play that to a finish and that's it. But you can do a campaign mode where you can either use predetermined characters, or you can roll up your own characters as you would normally do in a RPG like D&D or something similar, RuneQuest. And you try and keep that character alive, and it progresses, it gains experience, its abilities will increase in certain areas as the games and the campaign modes go on, and you try and move from storyline to storyline within that campaign and sort of come to a conclusion. A lot of the time there will be you know, you'll get injured, your character may die, but you will be able to use other characters that were in your party, because there will be some NPCs always floating around the sort of periphery of the game party. Initially they will be controlled by the game mother or GM, and whereas in most games they are called a game master, in here they've called it game mother, simply as a sort of nod again to the computer that was in the first Alien film. The onboard ship computer was called Mother, if you remember. So that's why they've called it the game mother. And you sort of can then take your character and sort of progress with that, as I say, through a campaign mode, or you can use them in a one-stop scenario. You get to potentially pick your careers if you're using campaign mode, you can roll up your character and you get to pick the career that they want to take, what they look like, whether they're male, female, or even a robot stroke artificial person. So you can do all of that. You can you roll for certain things like their strength, and you allocate a number of points between different abilities, and your strength also includes your sort of hit point stroke wounds. So the weaker or the less points that you put into that, obviously the less amount of damage you will take before something happens to you. You can, as I say, play as an android stroke artificial person. You get skills, you have personal agendas, you always have a buddy and a rival, and on predetermined scenarios they will be selected for you, because those characters are, as I say, predetermined for that particular one-shot scenario which you buy. But when you roll your own, you will then choose people within your group, and you will say, well, this one is my buddy and this is my rival, and you have to do that to give the game a bit more added flavour. As I say, you can choose your appearance, you can choose your name, your health, you know what stress levels are there, your personal agendas, you know, so you may be a corporate agent and your personal agenda, you know, is to ensure that nobody gets back to the starting point, because you don't want anybody to be able to retail anybody else what has gone on, what you've found. So your mission might be to ensure that you're the only one who survives, or maybe one other person if you're trying to bring a xenomorph or life form along with you. You can obviously choose your gear. You can develop your character, as I say, as you go along. You can be a colonial marine, you can be a marshal, you can be, as I say, a company agent. You can even play as a kid like Newt in Aliens. A medic is always good in a party, because there will be times when you get wounded or you know, sort of near to death, and you'll need somebody to try and save you. Obviously there will be officers, there will be a leader within the party. You're going to need a pilot who's going to be able to sort of you know, drive vehicles and fly spaceships and things sort of on and off planets. You can be a roughneck, you can be a scientist, a bit like Ash, who obviously turned out to be a android as well. You've got different skills, so you will sort of get those skills, and you will develop those throughout the course of a campaign if that's what you're playing. You suffer with stress, and if you become stressed and roll a 1 on your stress dice at any point, then you may be liable to panic. You can push your roll, so if you don't get any successes at all, so when you roll your dice, you're going to have a couple of attributes, and some of those attributes might not actually have any dice associated with them at the start, but one of your other attributes that you roll alongside it will. So you'll always be able to roll some dice to do a particular action or something that you would like to do in the game. And if you get no successes, you can push your roll. You can only do that once, but what you do is you get all of your dice, you re-roll them, but you also have to roll a stress dice, and that stress stays with you constantly unless you do something to remove it later in the game. And you then will re-roll them, and again any 6s, including on the stress dice, will be a success. If you get more than 1, you can do other things, like you can do sort of different stunts, or you can cause extra damage, or you can do different things. But if you just get 1 success, whatever you want to do is deemed that you are doing it. But if you get a 1 on the stress dice, then you are liable to panic. All of the other dice, normal dice, if you get 1s on there, they just fail. But it's only the stress dice that would cause you potentially to panic, and then other things may happen depending on the extent of your panic roll, because you will then roll a number of dice equal to your, so you will add the number of levels of your panic to a roll of a single dice, and depending on what that number is, that will determine what you have done in your panic roll. But there are different modifications that you will get throughout the game. You can do group roles, you can get help from others, there's different difficulties, you have opposed roles, and then you've got things like your different skills. So you've got heavy machinery, which is strength, stamina again is strength, close combat is strength, and mobility is agility, piloting is agility, ranged combat is agility, and then you've got things like your wits and empathy. So you will, at the start of the game, you will allocate a particular number to each of those skills depending on a number of points that you get, and you will then have to put those on your character sheet, and those will be your levels throughout the game. As I say, they can go up and down, so as your character sort of develops and progresses. You get there is combat and panic obviously in here. There's a stealth mode, so there is initiative in the game. So once you get into sort of situations where you may meet aliens or people who you know, want to fight you, or you need to attack, then everybody will get a particular initiative, and then that determines the order in which you will act throughout the turn. So obviously we've got ranged combat, then obviously there's a section here on damage and on obviously your health and healing. This is the section on stress and panic. There are obviously different hazards, like you can become exhausted, dehydrated, starving, freezing, you know, being in a vacuum, falling, fire, explosions. You can catch a disease. There's radiation, drowning, suffocation. There's a bit about synthetics, obviously. Up until the point when they're revealed, a artificial person stroke synthetic person will roll as normal, but once they are revealed, then they don't have to roll for things like stress, because they just don't feel it, because they haven't got any sort of like human emotions to worry about. There's bits about vehicle combat. There's different gear that you can get and have depending on what you're playing in the game. So obviously if you're a marine, you'll get different weapons. So you can have handguns, you can have rifles. There's obviously a multitude of rifles. Then there's heavy weapons, so you can have things like flamethrowers. There's close combat weapons. There's suits and armor. There's computer mainframes that you can deal with, data storage. So you've got lots of things within the game to sort of contend with. You know, food and drink. There's vehicles. Obviously this is where your pilot skills is going to come into play, because if your pilot dies, you know, somebody else may need to be able to drive vehicles or fly spaceships. There's bits about living obviously in space, your living quarters, you know, dealing with the media and law enforcement, all of the sort of standard day-to-day stuff that we still deal with currently. And then obviously you've got all of your spaceships. So, you know, there's different classes of space vehicles. You know, you can have space combat. Then there's obviously a section on being a game mother. So this will obviously tell the person who is running the game how to ensure that the players you know, have an enjoyable experience, but obviously not too enjoyable, because it is a horror based game, and you need to get them as stressed as possible, as early as possible, to sort of crank up the tension. And then you've obviously got a section in here that's showing you all of the different sort of factions stroke things in society. Like you've got obviously your Wayland Yutanis, you've got the Independent Core System Colonies, you know, the Interstellar Commerce Commission, Wayland Yutani, the LaSalle Bionationals. So, you know, there's all different things that will come into play. You will meet different people from different backgrounds and different companies, which will obviously have different agendas to yours, and they will be you know, fighting against your agendas and your company. So you've got all of your sort of things here about the actual universe that you're going to be in and travelling around. So this is a very comprehensive book. You've got a section obviously on the xenomorphs, like aliens themselves, and there are different aliens, and I use that as a broad term because they're not all going to be your archetypal alien from the film. There's lots of different types of creatures that you're going to potentially meet in these sort of scenarios and campaign plays, and there is a full campaign within this book that you can play through. So that's again a nice addition that they're giving you a full campaign in here. There are going to be more released, and there are some already out there, like Chariot of the Gods. You can buy that separately, or you can buy it with the starter set that I did a video unboxing for a few weeks back. And then also in the book you've got all of the thing about character, and how to sort of roll up and design your own, and make your own character to play within the game. And then obviously you've got characters already in here for different scenarios, and then you've got different locations based around that scenario, and then obviously there are different things within the book that you can photocopy. But on the website, so this is your character sheet on the website of Free League Publishing. You can download these, and the other thing about ordering direct from Free League, because you can get this through independent stores and stockists, but if you get it through Free League, anything that you buy that has a sort of physical presence and is sort of a book or a campaign or a map, or as I say, some of the character sheets, anything that you purchase from them, you will also get a free PDF version of the same thing. So I've now got this in PDF form, which I've got on a laptop, so that will help when you're running a game. You can have that on the laptop, and the players can potentially sort of look at this for rules clarifications if they need anything. And also all of the things from like the starter set, all of the maps and the Chariot of the God scenario, you get all of that as PDFs as well. So that's a nice touch. That's all free and included in whatever price you pay. So as I said, I only paid half the recommended retail price of this is just over 40. I paid just over half, and I still got all of the same benefit of having the PDF file as well. So if you're interested in the Alien universe, I do suggest checking this out. I'm planning on running this and also trying to get a game where I will be a player in it, in somebody else's game if I can, as soon as we're all allowed to meet up again. And I've built some sci-fi rooms out of some Dungeons and Lasers plastic scenery that I got through a Kickstarter, specifically to play this and other space games. There are playthroughs on YouTube, some very good playthroughs on YouTube. A lot of the sessions last anything between 2 and 4 hours, depending on whether you're playing a campaign or a one-shot scenario, but that's not too bad, I don't think, for a role-playing game, because it's not a board game where everybody has a turn. There'll be a lot of discussions, a lot of times where people are trying to do stuff. There'll be times in the game where you need to rest and sort of not do anything to sort of relieve that stress, or to heal a wound, or do something. So it's all relative to the game. But check out those things on YouTube. There's some very, very good playthroughs on there. And as I say, Free League Publishing, based around the Alien universe. And yeah, this is a game that I'm looking forward to getting into in 2021. And we'll see you again soon for another review or unboxing. Bye for now.